What up, metas? Coming to you with another Once Human tutorial guide. This one on a feature I think some people may not realize exists, and if you are aware that it exists, you may be missing out on some of the potential that this new feature can offer. It was added very recently. I believe we did make another video talking a little bit about it, but is the excuse me, not mod conversion, the blueprint conversion option that they now have added. And what makes this particularly interesting, and I'm out of attempts right now, which doesn't even let you go into it, which is kind of odd, but what it allows you to do is to transfer your stars or your upgrades to blueprints from one to the next, and you get a certain amount of these every week. It says here, spend one conversion attempt to swap enhancement levels between two blueprints of the same quality. Conversion attempts recover weekly at a rate of 2 per week. Maximum conversion attempts 10. When this limit is reached, weekly recovery will stop. So this is important to keep in mind. You do have a limit of the amount of times you can do this, but if you do it correctly, you really shouldn't use up that limit more than one season. And basically what it allows you to do, as we were already saying, is to transfer these upgrades from one piece to another. So for example, this 4-star top I have here, it's currently the explosive front top blueprint. But if I didn't want to use this, like if I didn't want to be unstable bomber this season, let's say I wanted to go something more elemental, so I was going to go shelter or something like that, I could transfer these 4 stars over to the shelter top and make it just a 4-star shelter top instead of a 1-star. And this is very useful for obvious reasons. The fact that it gives you all these upgrades, more psi intensity, more resistance, more HP, all that stuff onto the gear set that you're actually going to use. So this is like the most obvious use for it, and the most upfront usage of it. But if you really get into it, you'll realize that by doing this, you can also manipulate the blueprints that you have to create a 6-star if you've played a few seasons of Once Human in particular at this point. So by transferring some stuff around and making sure that you're utilizing the blueprint fragments that you have, ideally you can increase the amount of XP you get significantly when it comes to these upgrades. And the way that this kind of works, if you go into a blueprint to do some upgrading on it, you will notice when you get in there that it has a text, which I have a video for that I will show on the screen here at this point, where it will show that you get 2x XP when the blueprint names match. So what you want to do is transfer those stars around and to plan out your upgrades around the fact that you want those names to match. And you can do that even if you don't have enough points to get a 6-star now, because maybe this is your first season of Once Human, or you've only played like one season. You want to match that around the wish machine, right? So when you come into the wish machine each season, there will be different sets on the banners. So in this case, I believe it's this one. I know I took it off the screen, but since I already fulfilled it. But like if you go into this one, for example, say you wanted to upgrade, this is a new set, but like if this set had been out before, this Blackstone set, you would want to try to match the set together. So if you already had the Blackstone set unlocked, for example, you would want to pull on this banner so you could get more scraps specifically for Blackstone. Even if you don't necessarily want to run Blackstone, you want the sets to match up for maximum XP. And then you could go into the blueprint shop, hitting G instead of the wish shop, and you can go into like the actual sets. For example, like here you have Blackstone in here, right? So you could buy it here or unlock it on the banner, whichever way. And then try to match them up to give yourself like the maximum amount of XP per star chrom that you use, right? And you want to kind of plan this out around your build and what pieces you're going to use with it, right? So like in my case, when it comes to my set, you know, I'm using the Shaman Vulture top always with my unstable bomber build because that's the best top to go with the jaws, right? So I don't want to invest a whole lot of points buying the chest piece for Lone Wolf because I'm not going to use the chest piece for Lone Wolf anytime soon. So you can save yourself some star chrom as well by thinking about, well, what pieces do I actually need? Which ones am I actually going to use? I made the decision I was always going to probably always use the mask, the gloves, the boots, and the pants, right? That gets me my full 4-piece. Then I can be flexible on the helmet, which I'm going with the Bastille helmet for the 1-piece set. And then my Shaman Vulture top for the key item, right? So I don't need these two on Lone Wolf necessarily. I only need these ones. And usually on the banners, when they do pop up with armor sets, they typically don't necessarily have, sorry, that was the wrong one. They don't have the full set, right? Like you can see, it's only 4 pieces. And that's generally how it always goes. There's always only 4 pieces. So when you're looking at like trying to double up on this XP thing, look at what sets are actually on the banner as well. Because if you just go in there and you buy the whole Blackstone set, especially if you're not particularly planning on running Blackstone, you're going to end up wasting star chrom there too, and you may not have enough. So only buy the pieces that are actually on the banner. Only buy, in this case, the helmet, the chest, the boots, and the gloves. Now it becomes a lot easier if you actually plan on running Blackstone. You know, maybe you like the Blackstone set. Lone Wolf was the set that was previously also on the Wish Machine, but like I say, it got removed because I bought it out because I was using this method. You know, and if you do this properly, and especially through using the blueprint conversion system to transfer your stars around, that way you can match them up even better. You should be able to create a 6-star piece within a season or 2 using this method. And then you can just transfer that 6-star piece between all the different pieces of gear that you're going to use, right? So you can see in my case, I have a 6-star Bastille helmet, a 6-star Lone Wolf mask, and currently a 6-star Lone Wolf gloves. And then I'm going to transfer it to my boots, my pants, and my chest. And they're all going to be 6-star. Even though in my blueprint system, I do not have these things as 6-star currently, right? Like that. I don't have a 6-star mask there. But I'm transferring it around in order to get that 6-star on every piece. Currently, it's on my gloves. That's the last one I made. Which comes to like sort of the next tip, which is the order of operations you kind of want to go in when it comes to these upgrades and transferring around the 6 stars is there is a good order. For example, the boots are just the lowest psi intensity item that you have. So you really want to do the boots kind of like last. The psi intensity on your boots kind of garbage. And, you know, going back to you only have a certain amount of attempts to use per week and over the course of the entirety of the season. You don't want to waste it on boots, which gives you the lowest payoff, right? You want to use it on the stuff that gives you the highest payoff. And you can see this just by mousing over them. You can see that the mask has the highest psi intensity right off the rip. So you want to do the mask first. Then the helmet has the next highest psi intensity. So you really kind of want to do the helmet second. And then gloves, and then pants, and then chest, and then boots. So that's kind of the order you want to go in when it comes to transferring this 6-star around in order to maximize the amount of DPS and benefit you're going to get from it. And you're going to want to repeat that as the seasons go forward, right? Like when the next season comes out and you're playing Once Human again, you're going to want to craft your mask first, then your gloves, then your helmet, and so on and so forth. You're going to want to go through this order every time. Excuse me, you want to go helmet and then gloves. Sorry, I had that backwards. So you want to go mask, helmet, and gloves every single time. So as soon as you hit level 40 and you can craft your tier 5 stuff and you're ready to start transferring those stars around, that's kind of the order you want to follow. Now you can do the same thing with the guns, but the guns are a little bit tougher because it's harder to get multiple copies of guns and transfer them around and stuff like that. But like if you start thinking about your guns in the same kind of way, you can do the same thing with the guns. It's just takes a little bit longer, and you would have had to kind of plan that out a little bit more ahead of time. But you know, like for example, if you had interest in the new pyroclasm pyro shotgun, you could go ahead and pull on this banner, right, and get yourself 2 copies of the gun and go into the blueprint shop and also buy it in the shotgun section, right? Buy it there. So you have 3 copies of the gun and combine all that together and probably get at least, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but you would get at least like a 3 or 4 star just off of that. And then you could, you know, transfer that 3 or 4 star over to something else that you may already have like a copy of, or also shows up on the banner, right? Like in this case, maybe the silent Anabasis, you know, the new Frost AR, right? So what you would want to do is combine all those shotguns, get yourself like a 3 star or whatever, 3 or 4 star, whatever that comes out to, transfer that over to the Frost Vortex rifle, completely pull on this banner, get 2 more copies of this gun, along with, again, of course, buying the copy out of the shop, which I already did because I wanted to do a Frost Vortex build early in this season, and combine all those together with the 3 star that you already have that you transferred from the shotgun, and you should get at least like a 5 star, maybe even like a 6 star out of that, right? So if you have enough star, and again, this is fairly expensive. This is kind of a long term or a long game kind of thing. You may not have enough Starcrom to do this all in one season, especially if you're new, or if you've been buying multiple weapons and kind of spreading yourself out. You may not be able to do it right away. But what's nice about this, even though it's sort of like limits your options a little bit up front because you're spending so many Starcrom, maybe even on a weapon you don't necessarily want that much. Maybe you don't particularly care for the pyroclasm or using shotguns at all, but it might still be worth doing it just to go ahead and pump up one blueprint as close to or all the way up to a 6 star. That way when you come back in later seasons and you want to play like whatever you want to play, well, you've already got a 6 star, right? I could, if I had already done that properly and I came back following season and decided I want to use the you know, the shrapnel LMG, I can just transfer the 6 star straight to the shrapnel LMG after I buy it, and I've already got a 6 star version of that gun. I don't have to spend any additional Starcrom pulling off of these banners and trying to get more copies of the gun and level it up. I've already got a 6 star. I don't need it, you know? And you can do that same thing with armor. The only limitation is the amount of times you can transfer it. So if you're wanting to like think about your build in future seasons, like it's true you can only do 2 a week, so it you know, it is a little bit limiting in that sense that like eventually you might want to have more than one 6 star that you can like transfer around, or with the guns in particular, right? Like if you know like, oh man, I really love the Jaws, I'm going to run this every single season, you can make that level 6 and keep it there. Or if you're talking about like more of a support style gun, like a lot of people like to use as an offhand, like the Wildfire, for example, if you're going to always use that because you really like being able to apply bullseye, or the sniper rifle, for example, you know, the Bullseye BP or something like that, like more of a support gun that you feel like you're always going to use, you could go ahead and work on getting that 6 star as well and never transfer it. That way you always have that 6 star available to you. But since you're limited on like 2 per week on your recharges, you also have to keep in mind you're not going to be ready to craft it the first week either, right? It's going to take you like a week, a few weeks until like the server progression unlocks enough that you're even ready to make tier 5 gear. And you don't want to really do the transferring before you're ready for tier 5 gear anyway, unless you just want to go ahead and transfer it onto in my case I would say probably either your mask or something like that, just to give yourself that little bit of boost, or one of your guns. But you also don't want to try and like waste it, right? Like you kind of want to leave some sort of gun at a high star level, that way you can always craft it as soon as the season starts, so that even when you're at like tier 2, tier 3 or whatever, you're running around with like a 4 star, 5 star, 6 star gun, right? So you may want to think about, well, what gun do I want to keep all set up for my leveling? You know, like the Frost Vortex is great for leveling, right? Because it does good AoE damage. you know, if you're using the other key item, it sucks them together and stuff like that. So you may want to like have an elemental gun like the Frost Vortex or something that's your, I'm going to level with this gun because of how effective it is at dealing with normal enemies. And then you transition into your in-game like Jaws that does more damage to great ones and bosses and stuff like that. You know, those are all decisions you'll kind of have to make for yourself. But you can see the potential here for this system in order to give you a huge boost to your damage and your readiness for in-game content if you work this system correctly. And even though it does require a decent amount of investment and may even see you buying a gear set or a gun that you don't necessarily plan to use all that much, just because it's what shows up on the wish machine that allows you to get more copies, I think the investment is well worth it for all the extra damage and the fact that you're going to be able to run around in a 6-star instead of a 2-star or a 3-star, both in gear and weapons. So hopefully all that makes sense to you guys. It seems like sort of confusing at first, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much you can do with this blueprint transferring and how much you can like boost yourself right up into a 6-star now today. If you have the star crom and stuff built up, if you've been doing your weekly star croms, if you've been you know, claiming all your rewards every season and all that good stuff, doing the events, all that kind of stuff, like you can be in a pretty good spot right now to have 5- and 6-star items, just like I do. You know, some of you may already have them, so let me know down in the comments if this helps you guys out, or if there's anything kind of confusing about that, anything I need to elaborate on, anything you didn't quite get. Hopefully everything is pretty clear here. Like I say, we'll splice in some footage of some other stuff so you can actually see some of those bits. And if you guys enjoyed the video, also let me know down in the comments. Oh, looking forward to hearing from you guys. Hope you guys are enjoying the Way of Winter scenario as much as I am. I will catch you guys as always in the next video, and happy hunting out there.